Hi, I'm Jer, and welcome to today's edition of Video Game Music Arranging 101. Good to see ya. Hope you're all doing well. And hey there, VGM Together. Thank you, VGM Together, for having me. All right, today is Friday, October 21st. It is 9 o'clock p.m. in the Chicagoland area. It's currently 68 degrees Fahrenheit with a high of 75 and a low of 55. The sky is currently clear. We have a light wind from the south. Sunrise was at 7:11 a.m. and sunset was at 6:01 p.m. Dawn today was at 6:43 a.m. Solar noon was at 12:36 p.m. and dusk was at 6:29 p.m. Anyway, we're not really here to talk about all that stuff. If you want to hear all that stuff, just check out my stream at twitch.tv/Jer_Roke. Today, we're here to talk about arranging video game music and some of the basics that go into that. So if you've never arranged video game music before, this panel is really for you. A lot of you in the chat probably know a thing or two about arranging video game music, but if you don't know anything, if you don't know where to start, if you don't know where to begin, if the thought of arranging video game music terrifies you, if you don't know if you're supposed to open Reaper or Sibelius or Finale or MuseScore, this is for you. And I've tried really hard to tailor this presentation to be as method of creation agnostic. So because everybody has their own process, everybody has their own method. What if you don't know where to end? George Lucas doesn't know where to end. He should have stopped in the 90s, but that's an entirely different story. Ideally, you already know how to play an instrument or operate a DAW, or you know how to write notes on paper. Ideally, you know what chords are. Because otherwise some of this might get lost on you, but it's good to know something. And there are a lot of things that I won't be able to cover because the idea, or arranging video game music encompasses so many different things. You need to know, you can go into 50 billion different rabbit holes when it comes to arranging video game music. And I'm really trying to cover the basics, like the basic things you need to know to get started. Did I really write orchestral orchestration? That was not intentional. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, power chords are great. Yeah, I forgot to mention power chords, but we'll bring that in. We'll bring that up. So what do you need to arrange video game music? Maybe you need it. Maybe sheet music comforts you. So something like an engraving program is super useful. And I'll be reading the chat. It's right here. So if you have questions, that's reasonable. I'll try to get to it. If you like using a program like Reaper or Logic or Cakewalk or Pro Tools, they call those digital audio workstations. They're called a DAW. That's great. That works too. If you're of the tracker type and you've worked with things like Screen Tracker or Impulse Tracker, or you want to program Game Boys like people still do these days, you can use that. If you have a completely flawless memory and you can remember every single decision that you make about a creative project over the course of months and years, that works too. Or good old pencil and paper also works. You do need a little bit of knowledge. Ideally, you would know how to read sheet music or a tracker or guitar tabs or a piano roll, or you know how to play an instrument. Or you need functioning ears, because if you don't know how to read sheet music, if you don't know how to use Reaper, if you don't know how to do anything like that, as long as your ears work and you have a place to put music, you can arrange music. That's great, Darth Plagueis. Yeah, good. I'm glad. Yeah. A lot of us will probably have 20 arrangements started and then finish one of them, or as George Lucas would say, abandon them and release it to the public eventually. So here's my step-by-step process to arranging video game music. Step one, choose the song. You can't arrange VGM if you don't pick a song to arrange. And ideally, it's a song that you like. You know, if you don't pick a song, then you're just composing or you're doing something else that has nothing to do with arranging video game music. The next thing you need to do is study the song. And I think of this as breaking the song up into the different things that make it up. Why does the song make you feel the way it is? What is each instrument doing to convey that message? And it's important to understand the song because you might get ideas while you study the song about what to do with your arrangement. The third step, um, I really wanted to say a bunch of profanity, but I decided not to. But it's do stuff to the song. Do whatever you want to the song. Like if you have an idea that's like make this song a bossa nova, try making it a bossa nova. If you want to make a song that's in major in minor, you can do that. If you want to make something a waltz or a march, you can do that too. is it sets up the snare. And when I say sets up the snare, I mean, like if you've got your snare on 2 and 4, you can use a kick to like prep the snare. So you get this like down up motion. Or and it's really important for the kick to be on the downbeat because that tells all your listeners, hey, this is the start of a measure. And then the snare is accenting the upbeat for like for fun stuff. Now drums are made. A drum set is made up of more than kick and snare, of course. There's also something that the drums are doing typically to help keep time. Sometimes it's the hi-hat, sometimes it's the ride cymbal. So you'll hear you'll hear this. But then you'll also hear this. And that's, these are the things that drummers think about. These are the things that accompanists think about. These are the things that guitarists think about because we're all paying attention to the drums. And the drums will also do things to like, thanks, Moose. And drums also do things to accent what's going on in other parts of the song. So, like if you've got like a big thing coming up, you might hear. You'll eventually hear a crash cymbal or something like that. Because the drums are like providing a rhythmic template and skeleton that all the other tonal instruments can build off of, and it also accents them as well. Now, the reason I'm spending so much time on drums is because it's not just drums that operate in that way. Like if I'm playing piano, that low note is doing the exact same thing that a kick drum is, and it's helping set up the pulse there. Like in Saria's song, we have and it's got that low note and that first half of the song on 1 and 3, and it does all the other stuff on on the and 2 and 4 and. But when you get to the B section, it goes. And you're hearing that root, the bass play of the root, and it doubles in frequency of when it's playing, and as a result, the song just feels faster, even though the tempo hasn't changed at all. So, you like it happens. Music does this stuff, but it doesn't have to be drums. Like even here. Like even in classical music, it follows that same idea where the low frequency helps you feel the beat. Now, when it comes to harmony, chords and scales are what bring all the tonal instruments together, aka everything that plays a pitch or a note. And there's a lot of organization that goes here. You'll notice that there's something I'm not mentioning here, which is key signature. And the reason I'm not mentioning key signature except for now is because they teach you that a key signature tells you what key you're in, but it doesn't exactly do that because you might see a bunch of accidentals in the melody that tell you that you might be in a different key. But that gets complicated, and I should keep this back down to beginner, so I'm going to stop talking about that now. But basically, songs have chords. Chords help define, or scales and chords help define like a tonal center. And you can find through chord progressions what scales work over those chord progressions. And chord progressions tend to follow lots of patterns. As I said, music is all about patterns. You'll find a lot of patterns here. So bass, as I was saying, it's the foundation for harmony. Bass parts like the root, the third, the fifth of the chord. like right here, or that's a good old root of the chord. It just that's all it does, and then at the other part it goes just good old root, root of the chord, and it works with the kick drum. And what I mean by that is that you want your bass and your kick drum kind of agreeing on when the pulse is. Like you want. Or, because then they start to lock in place, right? If your bass is going, or if your kick is going, and your bass is going, you can do that, but it comes with some side effects that you might, where your pulse is might not be as clear. And that's absolutely right, Tarot Tail, that energy does not always mean tempo. But yeah, bass can do more than that. Sometimes they'll have a chord, right? Like say C7, and maybe they'll try to outline it. Bass can do that too. Bass can go. Bass likes the root, the third, and the fifth of the chord. All right. Now, comping parts, these I think of as guitar, keyboard, groups of instruments playing together that are playing rhythmic patterns. So, it doesn't have to be a keyboard that's going. Even though in Saria's song it's a pair of winds or something like that doing like that, it could be like in a waltz with strings, you might hear. And that, that pair of upper thirds, I consider a comping part. What these do, what comping parts do is that they realize the harmony, they fill the space. And, the general simple formula for these kinds of parts is that you pick notes in a chord and you play a rhythmic pattern. In Saria's song, it's. But you could go, I don't know. You could do that. You could go. And, you'll see that different songs have different patterns. You want to find the pattern that works. I could talk about chord voicing, but that's its own 3-hour discussion, so I'm not going to talk about that. Melody is the singable part of the song. Typically, it's the highest pitched part of the song that does not follow a simple pattern. And by that, I mean you might have a song that has things going on higher than it. But that upper thing won't be perceived as melody because it's repetitive. Our ears gravitate towards melody because it's just different enough from everything else. And whatever's higher pitched tends to win. Now, melody is still patternistic, right? Melody repeats a lot of things anyway. Listen to the melody. Let's play it again. Again. And then do something different. And that pattern of repeating, doing something different, repeat, and then doing that again is what you find in all of music. Now, there are a lot of ways to do supporting lines with monophonic instruments, like your winds and your horns and your strings. You can write songs will have counter melodies. Typically, those are less interesting or less catchy, or they're written to contrast the actual melody of the song. If you write a counter melody that kind of overpowers the melody, then it becomes the new melody. So it's kind of weird. People write. A lot of these things will be harmonies that follow the melody, another instrument comes in and does that. Sometimes people write background figures, and maybe they'll fill things with short melodic patterns. I don't know. but even that's falling into like comping instrument territory because it's a repeating chordal pattern. Um, oh, I didn't finish the slide. Okay, now instrumentation is also important. Um, but but when you're thinking about when you're studying a song, just think about why does this instrument sound the way it does? How does it communicate the melody or the harmony? Why do you think the composer picked this song? You know, if this melody was played by a trumpet, for example, you know, how would that change how it feels to, you know, to the listener? You know, or if it was played by a saxophone. So instrumentation is also really important. And then, you know, also, of course, when you study a song, take note of the form. Songs to be divided into sections. This will help you a lot later on if you decide to change the form of a song. You know, and you'll see that what a lot all the different instruments typically will change the patterns that they play when you get to different sections. Okay, so next step is do stuff to the song. You know, try your ideas, brainstorm, arrange it. And there are a lot of things you can do. You can, yeah, this is not, you know, you can just change the instrumentation. And a lot of old school video game music arrangements did exactly this. They would take the Nintendo and they'd be like, hey, let's make that a guitar, let's make that a guitar, and let's make that triangle wave a bass, and let's add drums. And then, you know, you have a video game music arrangement. You can add or remove drums. You can switch out patterns that exist in the song with other patterns. You know, like if I don't want to go, I could go. Just other ways of outlining the chord. And there are lots of different ways that people approach it. Some people start with the melody and they build everything downwards. Some people start with the drums and the bass and they build out like their rhythm section and then they play the melody like on top of it and figure out where to go from there. Some people start with like a strumming guitar or a harp or whatever, or an ukulele, and then just build around that. It's important to pick whatever works for you. And it can be different for each song. Like whatever drives the idea that you have, you know, work off of that, and you'll start like get into this loop of inspiration, essentially. So let's take Saria's song here, or Lost Woods, and let's change it up a bit. Give me some ideas about how to, like, you know, change this up. You know, a question that people ask a lot is, how do I change the style of a song? And to do that, you take patterns that are typical from another style of music. You know, like what do the drums typically do? What does the bass typically do? You know, and then you just take those patterns and you make it fit with Lost Woods, or you make it fit with like the harmony and melody of that song, because harmony and melody are essentially theoretical concepts. The realization of them is up to the instruments. So, what do I feel like? You know, a lot of people like Persona, right? So they go like, you want take, oh, I want to keep it 4/4. That'll be, yeah. So you know, a thing that a pattern that's in Beneath the Mask is that, right? That like that jumping minor third there. So what if I wanted a jumping minor third in the background of Lost Woods? Let's lay that down. Let's try 90 BPM. Oh wait, it needs to start on F. Let's do that with an electric piano. Oh, sorry, I gotta change the window. There we go. There we go. And I forgot to mention that I use a mix of Reaper and music notation and pencil and paper whenever I arrange because it's really easy for me to lay down simple ideas in say Reaper, but if I need to write things out in detail or if I need to write detailed parts out, then I need to go to an engraving program. If I need to tweak something over time and I need to iterate over it, I'll probably use an engraving program because I want to be able to play what I'm doing. Okay, so there's like a thing for the style. Okay. Now, when it comes to arranging drums, like we were saying, put a beat down. What do we got here? There's a stick. So, there's a pretty simple thing. One of the things with drums that you can do, aside from just lay down the beat, is that if you want to change things up, the changing the drums by themselves can like trick the listener. So if we have that. You can just like change that to halftime and it feels way different. Anyway, the point is listen to the different styles of music and see where they place the kick and the snare and see how time is kept. And then when it comes to bass, think about like the pulse that you want to feel, and you work from there, right? Where's my bass? So when I put those drums down, I was feeling that kick on one, and then the end of two, then prepping that snare there. So I probably want a bass. Put that down. Oh. That was just playing the root of the chord there. Again, the thing with the bass is that you want to outline the chord. You could go. And pay attention to what other songs do, because you can always steal from other songs and bring that to your arrangement. Literally did the comping instrument part, so let's move on. And then when it comes to melody, right, there are a lot of things you can change. You can change the rhythm of the melody. You can change the duration of the melody. You can change the form of the melody. All this weird classical stuff if you want to go there. You can also add lyrics to the melody if you really want to, but that's up to you. You can do whatever you want to the melody, and it's neat. So I'm going to record the melody here for this first half of the song. Let's do strings. No, let's do that sax. let's listen to that. There we go. Okay. All right. Now, when you're arranging, you might find that you want to write some parts. In general, there are some good rules to follow, I feel. One of them is that the lower in the frequency range you are, you want to keep your notes further apart. So if you're like writing, a whole bunch of things down here, and they're playing at the same time, you probably want them like an octave apart, at least a fifth apart, because if you play things closer together down low, it just does not sound good. But if you're up here, it sounds a lot better. Also, number one is extremely important for basic orchestration. Totally. And when you're like lower in the frequency range, try to favor tones that go with the chord. That's because it'll just help everything else that's above it sound better. Now, another thing is that when you see the chord progressions to a song, figure out what the scales are that work over them. The Lost Woods, you've got F to C. So that's pretty much C major, right? And then, you've got this D, G, C, A part, which is still C major. That still works. But then near the end, you get this like E sus4 to E major. And so let's see if E still, or if C major still works. I don't think that works as well. So what's that? So it's important to recognize what's going on there. And in that case, that E is like saying, hey, I'm going to be a 5 chord, but I'm actually the 5 chord of A minor. So you might want to switch to A harmonic minor for the duration of that chord. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about when I was saying that key signatures don't tell you everything. If you stick to just the key signature here, then you should just play all white notes throughout the duration of the song. But when you get to the E chord, that'll trip you up. It just doesn't sound right. But if you play like A harmonic minor, that makes a lot more sense. In a song like Yoshi's Island, theme of Athletic, where the chord progression is F, D major, G minor to C, that F sharp in the D major chord is not in the key signature of F major. So you got to be like, what's going on here? And it turns out that it's playing G relative minor or G minor, or G harmonic minor. There we go. Over that D chord works because that D chord to G is a 5-1 in the key of G minor. Anyway, anything that's, when you're writing parts, anything that's short and repetitive is not perceived as melody. For example, that Persona riff. That whole... It's so repetitive that after you hear it twice, you just start tuning it out, and your brain goes on to the next most interesting thing. If I were to write something that's like, why did that stay visible there? If you got this. That would also not be perceived as melody. Now, another thing is that you don't want to have too many things going on at the same time. It's really important to tell a story. In this case, with this persona thing where I think I screwed up the length of the chords and the melody, but whatever. Um, the story is let's take it chill, let's lay it back, and let's just listen to the sax part that I wish Musical Moose was playing. If you have too many things going on at the same time, and they don't agree in like chords, scales, rhythm, you get really weird things that happen, and it'll just sound terrible to the listener, like this. Um, and then of course, now just to reiterate, you want your melody to be the most non-repeating thing up top, unless you make other things quieter. And the reason for that, this is the intro to Mega Man 3. And what's written here is, for the actual melody, the loudest instrument, that's what's written as the melody, right? And then the second part is, it does that. And when you play those together, you hear. But that means that people hear this as melody, because those are the highest pitches, right? Those are the highest changing pitches, and even though, is actually louder, that's not what people hear. So if you want to think about what list people will perceive as melody, it's got to be the highest pitched, non-repeating thing. Otherwise, yeah, you get like weird things like that. Now, when it comes to arranging harmony, which I can... 10 slides, 5 minutes. Great. Okay. When you arrange video game music, you don't have to change harmony. Changing harmony is something that takes a very, very long time to learn and perfect. If you are interested in changing harmony, some of the things you can do is just switch major chords to the relative minor chords, switch 2 and 4 chords around, because a lot of those chords have the same notes, right? Like I could go, and that's just changing one note per chord. C and A minor, the only difference there is the A and the G. F and D minor, that's just a difference of C and D. You can switch out like 5 chords, but like the 5 chords to the relative minor if you want to. And that's some really basic things you can do with harmony. There are also more complicated things you can do with harmony. Like if you want to bring a song from major to minor, you take your key signature of C major, you change that key signature to C minor, and you play all your, you make all your E's and A flats, E flat and A flat, and then you get... And then you start getting stuff like that. Another thing you can do if you want to turn VGM to a very popular style of VGM cover, you just make everything a 7th chord. And these are ways to start exploring harmonic changes. And all that's just done is just by making all the Fs and F major 7s and all the Cs as C major 7, D, just add a 7 to each chord. And then it can really change the feel and make it sound a lot like jazz. You can also insert chords for added motion or excitement. Some styles of music like adding 2-5-1 chords whenever you approach something. So you could go... You could do that. You could also remove chords to give other parts room to breathe, like in that B section. Let's make that D minor. That's another thing you can do if you want to change, if you want to lessen that really quick pace of. But the important thing is to listen to the styles of music of what you like, what do you like in music that you listen to and hear and makes you feel good, and borrow from that stuff. It's super important to borrow from what you like, because what you like inspires you to make the kind of music you want to create. You're not going to want to create music you don't like unless you're a masochist. We're all inspired by the things that inspired. Wait, we all want to create music because of the things that inspire us. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. What musical music is saying is steal shamelessly, and yes, absolutely do that, because if you steal from lots and lots of different things, you will eventually create your own style that is a hodgepodge of all those different things. Yeah. The tritone subpart is. But I didn't want to go there. If you want to. Okay, next thing. If you want to really emphasize something in your arrangement, have all the instruments do everything at the same time. For example, if you really want to emphasize that melody, and then if you have the drums doing that at the same time, you'll really emphasize the melody. You want to have the melody and the accompaniment accompany each other. Like if you have a really busy melody, keep the accompaniment simple. If you have a busy accompaniment, have a simple melody. If you want to have a busy everything, you can do that too. You just might have to do a little bit more careful navigation. Everything that I'm saying, you can always break all these rules and ideas, but you just have to do it like, be careful what you do. Now, last part is, taking out parts can be really powerful. Like if I've been going, having that really big dramatic, we got rid of all the busy accompaniment can make a really big statement. Here's a diagram of how I kind of hear music. Bass just kind of lives at the bottom. Comping instruments just are above it and behind the melody, and support things are just kind of in between the melody. And organizing things like this is how, like, a bassist, a guitarist, a keyboardist, and then like some horns can have never played together and then meet up and play together and sounds fine, because everything like occupies their own space in sound. Okay. Next part, this is probably the hardest part. You organize all your ideas, and I'm going to brush through this really quick because I'm at time. What makes a good arrangement? It tells a story. It has a cohesive form. With form, you can change when you arrange video game music. You don't need to keep things in the same order. If your song has an A, B, and C section, you can go A, B, C. A lot of video game music covers just do song, solo, 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 song. You know, and it does that. If you repeat something in your arrangement, just do it differently every single time. Like bring it up an octave, change your instruments, add or remove different layers, like we talked about with the accompaniment, and that'll keep it interesting and not fall into that, oh, this is this thing again, and fall into the background. Now, when I say speaks a consistent language, I mean, like, if you're using seventh chords in your song, and you want it to sound like jazz, keep using seventh chords to sound like jazz. If you want it to sound like classical music, stick to the harmonic stylings of 18th century European male musicians and don't use all those fancy seventh chords. If you want it to sound like, a folk song, stick with like your acoustic guitar and singer-songwriter stuff, and don't throw in like double bass, heavy metal stuff. And of course, after all that, record and perform it, but that's how the scope. So I'm not going to talk about that. So, in conclusion, music is essentially made up of lots and lots of different patterns that you just organize and how you organize how you want to. You can take patterns from lots of different styles of music, pretty much any style of music, and apply them to the video game music song that you want to arrange. You can decide what patterns you want to keep and what you want to change. Sometimes you might find patterns in the song that you like, and you just want to change it up. And if somebody calls you out for doing it wrong, you can tell them, because you studied it, I heard that and I decided I didn't like it. So I made this artistic decision. When you arrange music, you can also compose entirely original sections if you want to. But you don't have to, you know, like if you've got a really short song like Sarah's song Lost Woods, you can go A section, B section, A section, B section, brand new section that I made up because I just wanted to write a bridge for the heck of it, and then do the B section again, then pretend you're a Disney movie, and then do the B section again and up a step, and then end the song. Essentially, your arrangement is the product of decisions that you've made, and you get to decide whatever story you wanted to tell. And of course, you know, there are lots of, if you're looking for help on video game music arranging, there are lots of communities out there. VGM Together is a great place to meet other video game music musicians that might be willing to, you know, talk to you about arranging or putting stuff down, getting stuff out there. Pixel Mixers is also another really good community, as is Dwelling of Duels. So they're also really cool. Hey, David Piano, how was your show? Hope it went well. And why is that slide doubled? That's weird. And of course, hi, I'm Jer. I play video game music on piano and also talk about video game music arranging. Thank you for coming to my panel. And I have a show on Saturday, October 23rd, or Sunday, October 23rd at 4 p.m. EDT, 3 p.m. CDT, where I'll actually be debuting a new arrangement if you want to hear that. So, yeah, thank you for hanging out. Thank you to the mods. Nudge underscore K Melbone, David Piano, Beat Fizzle. Who else is modding? ZD Major 7, Nightbot. And go follow them at their respective channels. So I hope that helped. I didn't, you know, I didn't do a dry run of this panel. So hopefully that helps y'all and inspires you to arrange something. Okay. Yeah, cool. Great. See you on Sunday.